Hello everybody, and welcome to the True Spooky Network, where we adventure into the paranormal, the true spooky, and the unforgotten. Today we're going to explore a true story that later became a film called The Haunting in Connecticut. Carmen Reed and her family were living in New York when they received devastating news. Out of respect for the family, we will leave certain names out of the story. Carmen Reed and her family received a call one day stating that a 13-year-old son would not have long to live.
He was 13.
Her 13-year-old son developed a lump in his neck. Although the family didn't feel the worst, days later, the lump got bigger. After receiving the devastating news, the family decided to relocate out of fear that they wouldn't be close enough to get the treatment that their son needed.
Because it's not just yourself you're fighting for. We were having to drive 306 miles round trip a day. He was very nauseated after the treatments, and then the traveling made it worse. And he wasn't eating regularly, so he was dropping weight extremely quick.
At first, it was hard to find a place that would house 4 kids.
We're just a blue-collar family trying to make it, and it was pretty expensive from what we remember, and I just needed to get closer to where he could have his treatments.
So I discussed it with my husband, and we decided to rent a place in Connecticut, closer to the hospital where he was being treated. And in doing so, I was having trouble finding a place that would rent to 4 children. I had passed an old colonial with a for rent sign. Well, I stopped, and I went upstairs and looked around, and it was a very nice house. I was impressed. I didn't think there was any way I could afford it.
And then, with the stroke of luck, Mrs. Reed found the right house. It was a very beautiful house. At first, she thought she couldn't afford it. But one phone call to the landlord, and everything changed.
I contacted the landlord, and it was affordable. He agreed to rent to me, and I was ecstatic. And we went home and got prepared to move.
Almost immediately after moving in, the oldest brothers started noticing things.
When I first came in the house, my brother was showing me some of the weird things, like the room where they made the headstones and the footstones and the body lifts, and that's kind of how we were putting things together, that it was a funeral home.
As one of the brothers explored downstairs, he quickly noticed something. He stumbled across a station for making headstones. He also found a body lift, things you would use in a funeral home. Later, Mrs. Reed would contact the landlord. That's when the landlord explained to her that it used to be a funeral home. The funeral home was a very old one, dating back to the early 30s. It was originally owned by the Hallahan family. Neighbors had a lot of great things to say about the family as well.
The Hallahan family owned the house as long as I could remember. They had the funeral home. They lived upstairs. Very, very nice people.
Well, I worked in all the funeral homes in Southington. At some point in time, I'd get a call to go in and do a corpse's hair and makeup.
He needed help occasionally to go retrieve bodies from the hospital morgue. And he came over once in a while when I was around, and he asked if I could take a ride with him in the hearse to go pick a body up in the morgue.
When you walked to the bottom of the stairs, there was a big open room, and it had a counter that went completely around the room. That was the south coffin room. That was my bedroom. And the north coffin room had big metal pipes sticking out of the wall, and that's where the coffins were placed. And those were the more, I guess, expensive coffins, and they were on display for people to purchase. There was a storage room off to the left. You walk in that room a little bit past the furnace, and there was a blood pit in the right corner that went down, and that's where, back in the day when they embalmed people, they would have them on a table above it, and the blood would drain down into the pit. There was a bigger room, and that's where the coffin lift was, that actually they lifted after they put the bodies in the coffins. They lifted them up through the floor to the display area.
Immediately after moving into the house, the family started having issues. It started with Mrs. Reed. One day, Mrs. Reed and her son Matt took a trip to the home so that her son Matt could pick which room he wanted. Mrs. Reed would later decide to mop the floor. She claims that as she was mopping the floor, the water turned into a thick red color.
When we started to move in, I went there with Matt one time just to let him pick his bedroom. The kitchen had a really nice cobblestone tile floor, and I went to put the mop to the floor, and the water turned this deep red, and it was thick, and it had a putrid smell. And there was a carpenter woman still in the house doing some crown molding.
She tried to receive help from a lady that was working at the house with her that day, only for the lady to investigate what happened and never return to the home again. Later, Mrs. Carmen Reed would reach out to family and friends for love and emotional support. So the family, they all decided to move in with Mrs. Reed and her family. The first day in the home, Matt told Mrs. Reed that he heard someone call his name in the basement.
In there. And he told me that. And I was concerned, knowing what was going on to his head and neck, that the medication, the treatments were causing him some mental issues.
When we first moved in the house, it was pretty much the same way it was when we lived in New York. Me and my brother got along great. You know, the family got along great. And me and my brother started telling my parents stuff that was happening in the house. And my parents didn't believe us. And my dad would get mad at my older brother, saying that he was putting stuff into our heads. And my brother started to get a little bit more withdrawn as we lived there longer, because he was seeing more and it was affecting him a lot more than it was affecting me.
He had a journal or a notebook that he would write poems and letters and notes and just...
With all the doctor visits and treatments, Mrs. Reed thought that her son was losing it mentally. The younger brothers would also tell Mrs. Reed and their father about the things that they experienced, but no one would believe them. One of the cousins that moved in began to grow a great relationship with Matt, but later she would begin to grow a great concern
He had a journal
for her cousin.
or a notebook that he would write poems and letters and notes, and just he would jot anything down, and a lot of it was really dark and enough to make me go to my Aunt Carm in regards and worry. Within weeks of being there, I was already.
The family quickly began to learn that there was a change in Matt's attitude.
But you know, as a mother, you expect your teenager to start going through that stuff about that time. And I knew that him having to face his own mortality at a very young age could cause him to want to live fast, thinking that he wasn't going to live another year.
He started to become more angrier and more outraged, as if he wasn't himself. Things also began to get physical with Matt and his siblings. Some of the family members decided to just stay away from Matt. Matt also had to see a therapist and a priest once a week. One night, while exploring the basement with his cousin, one of the older brothers spotted something.
There were a lot of things that I saw down in the basement. There were entities that would appear.
Me and my older brother were showing her different parts of the downstairs storage area, and
And what he saw gave him the chills. He said he saw a gray man standing in the corner, and when he raised his head up slowly, he had no eyes. He said he took a few steps towards them and later vanished.
In the corner on the ceilings, constantly moving lights.
There was orbs we'd seen in the house that would float around the house, and they were gray in matter, and they were about this big, and they were completely see-through. It just looked like a wisp of air or maybe cigarette smoke, but it was perfectly cylindrical, and it would fly around the room, and it would disappear. It'd go straight to a wall or go straight to the top of the ceiling.
You could see something that twickered like a lightning bug.
Many of the family members began to express what they all experienced. Some family members say they saw orbs. As for other family members, they saw full apparitions, flickering lights, and a shadowy figure of a man that would peek his head in and out of corners. One of the brothers also remembers seeing a 6-year-old black kid in Superman pajamas.
Then there was the little boy, the little black boy about 6 in the Superman pajama.
He used to come out in the south coffin room, and he'd come out of the left wall and fly around the countertop.
He was always in his pajamas, and he seemed lost and scared. He just wanted to go, be safe.
I think that he was just trying to play.
One night, as one of the brothers was sleeping, he woke up only to see 3 dark figures in long trench coats standing in the corner. He stated that the figures were standing in the corner of his room playing with his toys. All of a sudden, his brother said something, and the toy flew across the room, hit the wall, and broke. The boy screamed, and the father came down with the shotgun. It was at that moment that the father became a believer. Later, the family would have to face issues with their bills.
It was very hard for me to deal with as a child. I mostly just tried to block it out and didn't want to talk about it.
I recall some incidents, but at that age, things can be altered in memory.
We used to leave the bedroom lights on downstairs in the basement, and of course that caused the electric bill to go through the roof.
When my husband saw the electric bill and everyone was sleeping with the lights on, he just removed the lights out of the basement where the boys were sleeping.
Just to feel safe and comfortable, the kids started to sleep with the lights on all night. The bill was so high that the father resorted to removing majority of the light bulbs out of the basement. One night, while one of the boys was sleeping, he was woken to flickering lights.
You're not supposed to be down here. And I got up and I chased her up the stairs, and I chased her into the living room, and my dad and mom were sitting there, and they said, "What are you doing out of bed? You need to go downstairs and go to bed." And I said, "Well, where's my sister at? She just was downstairs turning the lights on and off." And they said, "No, she's in bed. Go look and see for yourself." And I walked in there and I looked, and my sister was sleeping, and I was walking by my dad, and he said, "Well, quit messing around, because you know I took those."
That there was something wrong with the home, but no one would listen. Later, Mrs. Reed would put Matt in a mental hospital. It was hard, but she did it. The last thing Matt said to his mom before they closed him in this room was, "No, Mom, now they're gonna come for you." Immediately after, things started changing in the home.
That he thought that he was inciting the stories.
Before my parents believed the stuff that was going on in the house, we tried everything we could to make them believe that what we were saying was true. There was just no tangible evidence. We couldn't take a picture because we didn't have cameras. We tried recording them on the little kids' recordable things, and people would say it's just static.
No, I didn't think there was anything wrong with the home. I thought something was wrong with Matt, and I put him in a mental hospital. And that was when another hurdle that was very tough. They came with an ambulance and took him away, and then when we got there to the hospital, they put him in a cot that was basically a straitjacket in a room the size of a closet, and they were going to shut the door, and they wouldn't let me speak to him or be near him, and they said, "You have to leave," and he's screaming, "Mom, don't leave me, Mom, don't leave me," and the last thing he said is, "Now they're going to come after you." Shortly after I had Matt put in the hospital is when things escalated.
There was a man that used to up here in my room after my older brother moved out.
His brother started seeing a man in his room after Matt was admitted.
It was just a head. He had long hair, but he had a wicked scar that came down the center of his face, and this whole side of his face was smooth, kind of like metal. And he just had a circle for an eye. It didn't have any color, any pupil or anything. And he would just start flying around.
He had long hair with the scar down the middle of his face. He had circles for eyes, and he would fly around the room. One night, Mrs. Reed's niece ran into her room, yelling, screaming, yelling, "Auntie, it's happening again."
One night, my niece Tammy came into the room and she said, "Auntie Carmen, it's happening again."
As Mrs. Reed investigates, she notices something strange.
The curtains flew up, and as I pushed her back, I could see the perfect imprint of a hand underneath her shirt. All 3 knuckles.
Mrs. Reed quickly calls the church, and they set the meeting for the next morning. As they were trying to do a cleansing, the rosary on Mrs. Reed's niece's neck began to rise, all on its own. And then out of nowhere, the rosary just snapped. Immediately after, Mrs. Reed ran into the room with her husband, jumped on the bed, and told her husband everything that happened. Later, they decided to call Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren were the best paranormal investigators at the time. Things took a big toll on the family. As time passed, the kids tried to do things normal, but the house just made it harder. After the Warrens got involved, that's when things became clear. Ed and Lorraine Warren thought it would be best if the family went public with the story. After the story went public, it started to take a toll on the family and the kids. Some of the kids started losing their friends. Some people would later say that it was all a hoax and that the family just wanted attention. There were neighbors that began to get fed up because they thought the whole thing was a hoax. Although Mrs. Reed and her family believed everything to be true. A book was later written bashing the family and the credibility of the story. The author also said that Ed Warren, out of his own mouth, said that the family was crazy, which sparked even more controversy on the family's credibility. The author has also been asked a couple of times for an interview, but he always refuses. With nowhere else to turn, the family decided to do an exorcism on the home. There were 3 priests, 3 deacons, a strong man, and a secretary to take notes. None of the kids were allowed in the house at all. Crucifixes were placed around the house, and words were spoken in many different languages. One of the witnesses even stated that the house began to shake at one point. Ed and Lorraine Warren also attended the exorcism. But later, Mr. Warren would begin to have bad chest pains. At the end of the exorcism, all of the family said amen, including the Warrens. The family stated that after everyone said amen, it felt like a breath of fresh air in the home.
There were several different things that actually had transpired in there. We had rumbling that went through the house.
All the time, it was cold, it was nasty, and it was dark in that house.
Ed and Lorraine Warren was there. Mr. Warren got some chest pains. I was very concerned for his well-being.
And at the climax, it was like it just broke.
The second we said amen, it was like spring showed up in the house.
And that home.
When the exorcism was finished, Mrs. Reed noticed something strange.
The ritual was over, and we went to collect the relics. They had found that the hands were missing off of the Madonna, and I kept it until 3 years ago when I gave it to John Zaffis, and it's in his museum to this day.
A lot of things in here that I've collected over 36 years. A lot of the items that I have in the container.
One of her relics, the Madonna, was missing both of his hands. But above all, the family feels safe and has moved on. Mrs. Reed decided to put some of the things from her home in a museum in hopes that it will ward off bad spirits.
You and I have gone back and forth. We've had a lot of people talk to us about that, Carm.
The actual deacon that brought it in wouldn't touch it. And I couldn't throw it away. And so now it's in your hands. After the exorcism was performed, we waited 6 days to make sure everything was clear, and we moved out.
When we moved down to where we live now, nobody knew us, and it wasn't really talked about.
I was so angry at this point that I disconnected from it.
So everyone, that was a true paranormal story that ended up becoming a movie. No one actually knows what happens in the paranormal world or the spiritual world. But here at the True Spooky Network, we believe it all. Until next time, guys, everyone here at the True Spooky Network would like to wish you guys a good night.